AtticMan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
All right, Mario, thanks for joining me today. We often get people who will contact us here on Check a Pro Radio with questions for you. I've got a question for you on behalf of everybody who listens and watches, and that is, what mistakes can homeowners make that could damage their heating and air conditioning systems?
Yeah, yeah, that's an interesting one. Right away, what comes to mind is homeowners closing air vents.
Mm,
So I've seen this so many times where, maybe they say, "Oh, our son moved out, he went to college, nobody's in that room anymore, so we closed that vent."
mhm.
Because they think that by closing the vent, they're actually saving energy by not heating or cooling a certain room, or they're gonna push more airflow to another area of the house. And the truth is that actually damages your heating and air system. So we've talked about this many times, Jim, where airflow is the number one most important thing to heating and air units. And when you close those registers, you're inhibiting airflow. And what that'll do is it'll create what we call static pressure, kind of a back pressure on the system, which can cause strain on the blower motor, on the compressor, and can lead to further breakdowns down the road, right? So, if you have registers in the house and you think, okay, I'm going to close these off, don't do that. Leave them open. You'll actually benefit more by, even though you're having heated air or cooled air you paid for going into that room, having that airflow throughout the system is beneficial for it. What that's actually meant for, because I've had homeowners ask me this, Jim, they say, well, why would they make it like that if you're not supposed to do that? What it's actually meant for is for just pointing the direction of the airflow, right? So, okay, I want it to blow more across the ceiling, or I want it to blow more down towards me onto my bed. That's really what it's for. I wish they would actually put a stopper in there so you can actually close it. But yeah, that can definitely damage your system. Don't do that. Leave them open. More airflow, the better.
Do not put duct tape over your registers as well, right? Make sure the air flows out of them as designed. Also, make sure that the intake is open as well. That's where the filter could go if you have a 1-inch filter, right? The registers, make sure that
Right.
it goes in, and make sure that it can go out. There needs to be a filter, but it can't be over filtered. The filter needs to be clean, no obstructions, and it's really not that difficult to keep the system in check, right? You want to keep the coils clean, so you want to have a filter in there, and the filter needs to be the right filter. Other than that, as long as there's good airflow, there's not going to be a whole lot of strain on a well-designed system. Let's talk a little bit about that, because if this system isn't designed well when installed, you're going to have problems from day one.
Absolutely. These appliances, these heating and air systems, they're not like a refrigerator. You go to Home Depot, buy one, go home, and just plug it in, and
Mm,
it runs, right? While they are assembled in a factory, all of the magic and how it's going to perform and how efficient it'll run, how quiet it'll be, how long it will last, all comes down to the quality of the installation. So making sure that the airflow is right, right? Making sure we have enough airflow going into the system on the return, that return is sized appropriately. In many cases nowadays, you have to upsize those returns because when they built the homes 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, they didn't know how important airflow was to systems and they undersized their returns. So when AtticMan does an install here in Sacramento, we're upsizing returns on 99% of houses because it needs it. And if you have anyone tell you, oh, it doesn't need it, that should be a red flag because that means they're cutting corners, they're trying to save costs and materials, time and labor when not doing right by you. So having a design system appropriately isn't the most important thing to how long it will run. Also, making sure the refrigerant is charged. These systems are charged by the installer, by the contractor in the field. And it's like putting oil in a car. If you charge it too little or you put too much refrigerant, sure, the car will drive with too little oil or too much, but how long until that engine burns out? And even though you might have a warranty on that system, nobody wants their brand new air conditioner to go out on a 100-degree day. That's the worst thing that could happen, right? So the design is important. And, while I talk about that, I'll just give you an example that just came to mind. Some houses, if you're listening to this and you think, oh, yeah, I have a filter and it's in a wall. I've seen times where the filter is actually in the wall, in the grill, and maybe it's down low and it's in their living area. And so they have the couch in front of it, right? That is a big problem. We don't want to restrict that vent, right? If your vent is there and that's where your couch is, you need to pull that couch, have it out at least a foot away so that that thing can breathe, which probably isn't ideal, which probably means you either got to move your couch or move the return to somewhere else. So if your return is on the ground or in the wall, make sure it is unobstructed. I've seen that so many times too. You could show up, my system stopped working, the couch is blocking the return. The system can't breathe, and boom, it busts a refrigerant leak or the compressor died. And then it's just a nightmare to deal with from there, right? We all want to avoid that. So, all very, very great points.
Yeah, and if designed well, the, home builder would have, designed it or strongly suggested that maybe a return go in a hallway if it makes sense for airflow, because you're less likely to put a piece of furniture in front of it. And, maybe higher if it makes sense for that particular configuration. There are many that are low on the wall, and it's tempting to cover them up because who wants to look at that? But it's there for a reason, so do not cover those up. You're absolutely
Right.
right. And make sure you don't put too heavy of a filter on there either. That's a whole 'nother thing. That could be a mistake. Too heavy of a filter, not good airflow.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That we refer to that as a MERV rating.
Mhm.
There's different MERV rating. The higher the MERV rating on a filter, the thicker the filter, the more fibers there are to catch things, which most people think, okay, the thicker the better. But you can actually stress the system out and inhibit airflow. Typically, this is a widely debatable subject. Different contractors, different HVAC people give you different answers. My opinion on it: don't go over a MERV 11. You can have it a MERV 11 filter, change it every 60, 90 days if you have a 1-inch filter, and you're going to be just fine. You start getting into MERV 13, 15, the higher you get, the more you're pushing it. So you want to find that nice balance between catching debris and pet hair and dust and things like that, a filter that is capable of doing that, but also not too thick where it restricts airflow. And that's where you could put a product in like a Remy Halo, which we talked about on
Mhm.
another episode, where you put in a standard MERV 11 filter, pair that with a Remy Halo or a similar indoor air quality product, your system's going to be running great. You're going to have great airflow and everything's going to be working as it should. So, yeah, more great advice there.
Great information, great advice. Mario, as always, thank you for joining me today here on the program.
Anytime. Thanks, Jim.